When observation started changing the outcome, it began with a result that refused to stay consistent. The same experiment, repeated under the same conditions, produced different outcomes depending on how it was observed. Reality seemed to notice attention. To understand why this matters now, we need to revisit a core assumption of science. That observation is passive. We look, nature behaves. Measurement reveals truth without influencing it. This belief built centuries of confidence in objectivity. That confidence cracked at the smallest scales. In quantum experiments, particles behaved one way when unobserved and another when measured. At first, this was treated as a technical limitation. Instruments interfered. Noise distorted results. The problem was blamed on tools. But refinements made the effect stronger, not weaker. The act of observation itself altered outcomes, not because of force, but because information entered the system. What was known changed what occurred. This was unsettling but contained. Quantum effects were strange, yet distant from everyday life. Then similar patterns emerged elsewhere. In biology, observation altered behavior. In economics, measurement shifted markets. In social systems, attention reshaped outcomes. The pattern repeated. Systems responded not just to forces, but to awareness, to being watched, measured, anticipated. At first, this seemed psychological. Humans react to attention, but deeper analysis revealed something broader. Complex systems adapt to information itself. Observation feeds back into behavior. Reality was no longer a stage where events unfolded independently. It was a conversation. Measurement became participation. And once observation changes outcome, neutrality disappears. Because watching is no longer separate from acting. As this feedback loop became impossible to ignore, science faced a quiet crisis. Observation was no longer a window. It was an input. In physics, this meant measurement could not be cleanly separated from system behavior. In economics, forecasts influenced markets before events unfolded. In medicine, diagnosis altered patient outcomes simply by being delivered. Knowing changed doing. The conflict emerged when prediction and observation merged. Systems adapted in advance of outcomes, reshaping the very future they were meant to reveal. Models did not wait to be proven right. They influenced conditions so that being right became more likely. This created a paradox. The better an observation system became, the less neutral it was. Precision amplified impact. Accuracy increased interference. The act of knowing became a force. Researchers attempted separation, blind studies, delayed disclosure, hidden variables. But in complex systems, information leaks. Expectations spread. Observation could be postponed, but not removed. The deeper concern was trust. If observation alters outcomes, then data is never purely descriptive. It is performative. Measurements shape behavior. Metrics become targets. Systems respond to being measured rather than to underlying reality. This effect scaled with visibility. The more widely an observation was known, the stronger its influence. Public metrics reshaped institutions. Rankings altered incentives. Dashboards guided behavior more than values did. The emotional tension rose when scientists accepted a hard truth. Objectivity was not broken. It was incomplete. Observation had always influenced systems. Complexity had just made the influence unavoidable. Reality was no longer something science simply revealed. It was something science helped create. And once creation enters the equation, responsibility follows observation everywhere it goes. The conflict reached its peak when observation began steering systems faster than humans could correct them. Feedback loops tightened. Measurements informed decisions. Decisions reshaped conditions. New measurements followed. Reality chased its own reflection. In financial markets, indicators designed to reveal stability triggered instability instead. In education, metrics meant to improve learning narrowed it. In healthcare, performance measures optimized paperwork over care. Systems adapted to measurement rather than purpose. This exposed a dangerous inversion. Observation was meant to serve understanding. Instead, understanding bent to serve observation. What could be measured dominated what mattered. Scientists recognized the pattern immediately. This was not quantum strangeness scaled up. It was a universal property of adaptive systems. When entities respond to information becomes an intervention. The emotional peak arrived when attempts to fix the problem made it worse. Adding new metrics created new distortions. Refining models increased their influence. Transparency amplified pressure. Every solution fed the loop. At this point, neutrality was no longer an option. Choosing what to observe became as important as how to observe it. Silence became a form of intervention. Ignorance became strategy. The unsettling realization settled in. There was no outside vantage point left. Observers were inside the systems they studied. Every glance nudged reality in some direction. Science had not lost objectivity. It had gained agency. An agency without intention risks steering systems toward outcomes no one explicitly chose. The resolution came with a shift in awareness rather than control. Science could not return to pure observation. The act of watching was now inseparable from the act of shaping. The only choice left was how consciously that power would be used. Researchers began redesigning measurement itself. Fewer metrics, slower feedback, emphasis on long-term signals over short-term reactions. Observation was treated as an intervention, planned with the same care as any action. This changed the role of science, not as a detached judge of reality, but as a participant within it. Responsibility expanded from accuracy to consequence. What was measured had to be justified by what it encouraged. Across disciplines, restraint became a form of intelligence, knowing when not to measure, when not to publish, when to allow systems to stabilize without constant feedback. Silence regained value. The deeper lesson was unsettling but clarifying. Reality is not indifferent to attention. Complex systems respond to information as forcefully as they respond to matter or energy. When observation started changing the outcome, science did not lose its power. It revealed a new one. Understanding was no longer just about seeing clearly. It was about deciding what kind of future each act of seeing helps bring into existence. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.